The third Brett Kavanagh accuser has identified herself, and her accusations were outlined in a sworn affidavit that was released by attorney Michael Avenatti. Now, Michael Avenatti had basically foreshadowed this case. He said that there was a third accuser and that this accuser was credible. And based on her very detailed allegations and the fact that she claims that there are people that she spoke to at the time that this incident occurred, it does appear that her accusations are at least credible and should be investigated. But with that said, let me give you the details. So this third accuser, her name is Julie Swetnick, publicly identified herself and alleged that Kavanagh and others in the early 1980s spiked the drinks of girls at high school parties with intoxicants to make it easier for them to be gang raped. So here is an exact quote from Swetnick. She says, "I have a firm recollection of seeing boys lined up outside rooms at many of these parties waiting for their turn with a girl inside the room. These boys included Mark Judge and Brett Kavanagh." Now, the first accuser, Dr. Blasey Ford, had mentioned that Mark Judge was also in the room when Brett Kavanagh allegedly attempted to rape her. So he has now been named by two of the accusers. Also, in approximately 1982, I became the victim of one of these gang or train rapes where Mark Judge and Brett Kavanagh were present. Now, the wording there is incredibly important because she never specifies specifically that they participated in the alleged gang rape. She says that they were present. So I think that it's important for her to clear this up, and hopefully she'll have an opportunity to testify about these allegations as well. She also says, during the incident, I was incapacitated without my consent and unable to fight off the boys raping me. I believe I was drugged with Quaaludes or something similar placed in what I was drinking. Also, she says, shortly after the incident, I shared what had transpired with at least two other people.
Okay, so these are heavy charges, as heavy as it gets. And so now what Anna has been emphasizing throughout the week becomes an inescapable conclusion. How could you not have the FBI investigate? Now, again, it's for an expanded background check that they have done in similar occasions before, as they did in the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill situation. Because at this point, if these allegations are false, that is, if she made it up, as a lot of Republicans are charging now, it is the worst smear job that we've seen maybe ever. Mm-hmm. So if I'm Kavanagh, we're not going to investigate this outrageous charge, and we're just going to let it stand, and then I'm going to go on the court because you guys are going to rush a vote, and then from then on, everybody's going to think that I'm part of, that I'm a rapist, attempted rapist, gang rapist, etc. So you've got to clear his name if he didn't do it, and then of course if he did do it, he shouldn't be anywhere. I mean, he should be in a court, but not on the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And it would be the worst decision we have ever made in regards to the Supreme Court to put him on it, because there's no. Now it's become more binary. It's less, hey, did he do that at a, I don't know. They were all heavy charges, but the Ramirez one, there is a question of memory, etc. This one, she's fairly clear, but not completely clear on very serious allegations. And you can't do that to the guy if he didn't do it, and you can't have him on the Supreme Court if he did it. It's those, to me, it's so stark. How could you go forward without more information?
As I've said before, what makes me uncomfortable about this whole situation is that this is all going through the court of public opinion as opposed to having nonpartisan professionals look into it. And usually the response you get from those supporting the Trump administration, I'm talking about members of the base, not necessarily the politicians, is, well, the FBI doesn't do criminal investigations of rape. But no one's asking for a criminal investigation. Although I think an argument can be made that state prosecutors should look into this as well, because these are serious charges. But putting that aside, the FBI would investigate this specifically to see if these allegations have any piece of truth to them, so senators can make the right decision in either confirming him or not confirming him. If I were accused of anything like this, and I knew I was innocent, I would be calling for the FBI to investigate it. But instead, you have Republican senators, members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, just flat out refusing to do it. They say, no, he's innocent. This is a smear campaign. And then they refuse to get the FBI involved. Why? Why? If he's innocent, you should get the FBI involved. You absolutely should want that to clear his name. But what are they afraid of?
So there's two things here that are really important. One, if you're applying for any job at any company, and 3 women came forward and said to your prospective employer, oh, by the way, he committed sexual assault against me, including an up to gang rape, your employer would pause before hiring you. At a bare minimum, if they're going to be fair to you, they would look into it and see, are these wild allegations that are totally made up for some reason against this guy, or do they have any chance of being true? What any rational employer wouldn't do is, don't worry about it. Who cares about rape allegations? Don't worry about it. Let's just hire the guy. And maybe later it'll be a gigantic legal liability, but who cares? No employer in the country would do that, except for what? One of the most important jobs in the country, to put a lifetime appointment on the Supreme Court. It is now an argument you cannot make that we should rush one of the most important jobs with less checks than you would get if you were applying for a job at the local Walmart, okay? So, and then secondarily, if you're asking, well, guys, the FBI thing's gonna delay it, we're past that. There's too many allegations.
Are you really that concerned about the politics of this? Like, is a political win more important than ensuring that the newest Supreme Court justice is not possibly a rapist? I mean, come on.
Okay, but if you're asking, but guys, what could the FBI possibly find out? A lot. So they're not going to have a conclusion. The FBI does not convict anyone, and this is a background check. It's not even presenting evidence in a trial. It's presenting evidence to people making the employment decision. So what are the things that they could find out? Hey, Ms. Swetnick, who were the other people at the party? Who was, I mean, you are alleging a gang rape of yourself here. It's a super important charge. Do you have any idea who was involved? You say he is present. What does present mean? Was he at the party? Was he in line? Do you know if he participated? Those are really relevant questions. Can you name a single other person at the party? Then you go and see if they can corroborate. Was there such a party? Was she at it? Was Kavanagh at it? Did anyone else know about spiking the drinks? Those are, how do you make a decision without knowing those? Either way, I don't know how you could possibly know for sure, which unfortunately, by the way, yes, both sides are doing it. So the Republicans are absolutely sure he didn't do it. How, I don't know. And yes, there are people on the left who say, I believe them, period. And I get why they say that, but I don't think that's how this process works.
Well, but to be fair to the Democratic senators, they might say, I believe her, but they're specifically calling for an FBI investigation. Now, after the third accuser came forward, and since these accusations are so hideous, some of them have called for, the withdrawal of Kavanagh as a Supreme Court nominee, but they are still emphasizing the importance of at least doing an investigation to figure out what's at the bottom of this, what's the truth. Let's figure this thing out. Also, I want to give you a little bit of background on Julie Swetnick as well, so you kind of get a sense of who she is. So she apparently has multiple clearances to work for government jobs. So for instance, she had clearances for the Treasury Department, the U.S. Mint, IRS, State Department, and Justice Department, other government agencies as well. And I don't know why someone would put their face out there with false accusations, given how incredibly cruel, Trump supporters and Senate judiciary members, particularly Republicans, have been toward women who have come forward.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.